You've been told that empathy is weakness, that if you let your guard down, if you lead with compassion, someone's going to take advantage of you. But what if I told you empathy isn't soft at all? That it's actually one of the sharpest tools in your leadership toolbox. And most of us just don't know how to use it yet. Today on the show, I'm going to tell you why empathy isn't a dirty word. It's a damn superpower. Welcome to Female Founder Unplugged, the show where we cut through the noise and have a real, raw conversation about what it takes to build and scale a successful business as a female entrepreneur. I'm Lindsay White, people strategy expert, leadership coach, and fellow founder. And I know firsthand the challenges of scaling sustainably and staying connected to your passion along the way. This podcast is for ambitious women just like you, seasoned founders and CEOs navigating the challenges of leadership, team building, and sustainable growth. In each episode, we'll dive into those topics that are most important to you as a female founder. You'll hear honest, no BS conversations about building, growing, and leading a team and culture so that you can grow without losing yourself in the process. Because let's be real, entrepreneurship can feel isolating and leadership doesn't come with a roadmap. If you've ever struggled with the pressure of running a business, felt overwhelmed by growing your team, or wondered, how do I scale without sacrificing my vision and my purpose? You're in the right place. Let's get unplugged. Hey friends, welcome back to Female Founder Unplugged, the podcast where we always talk honestly about what it takes to lead, grow, and scale without losing your soul or your sanity. I'm so happy to have you here with me today. What I want to talk about is a topic that's really close to my heart. And honestly, I'm going to get a bit spicy with it today because I think that the word empathy has gotten a totally bad rap, especially in business, especially for women. So if you've been told that you are too soft or you're swallowing the belief that being empathetic and vulnerable makes you weak, this is the episode for you. So what we've been told so often in our careers, because a lot of us come from a corporate background. We have been taught and been in cultures where being tough is seen as being strong and being empathetic is seen as giving in or being weak. And empathy has really become the thing that we avoid. It somehow means that we're like a marshmallow, we're soft and gooey. And that, we're giving up our power and we're backing down. But that, my friends, is not empathy. That's avoidance. And that's a completely different podcast episode. True empathy isn't about shrinking yourself. It's about really seeing clearly. And empathy allows each and every one of us to understand someone else's experience without losing connection to our own perspective. It's not about giving up control. It is really about leading with connection and building trusting relationships. And the truth is, you can't really be an effective leader without it. Yeah, that's the truth. You need empathy in order to be able to connect, to build those beautiful collaborative relationships and to understand what's happening on your team. So let me tell you a story about a conversation I had recently with a client who is navigating some real leadership tension, right? She's managing a growing team and she's really struggling with what I call the controller saboteur. This comes from that positive intelligence work that you hear me talk about so much, right? That we have 10 saboteurs. We have the judge. We all judge ourselves and others pretty harshly. And then we have 9 accomplices. Well, this client, one of her leading saboteurs is the controller. So this is the voice in your head that says, if I'm not in control, then I'm out of control. If I'm not in control, I could be controlled. And that is untenable. Having someone else control me is just something I can't live with. So if this sounds familiar, it's okay, right? That's all right if you're a little bit of a controller. But the trick is when we encounter someone else who also has a controller. And this client of mine has someone else in their world that is a controller too. And as you can imagine, these two people both trying to be in control and dominate the situation, the team, the decisions. Oh man, the power struggle is real. And their teams caught in the middle. The people around them are watching this battle and they are overwhelmed. They are horrified. They are unsure. And what it's causing is chaos because it's hijacking them. So when my controller saboteur is active, what happens to someone who perhaps is an avoider? Or, like yours truly, a people pleaser? It causes incredible ripple effects. So in our coaching session, my client admitted how hard it was for her to feel empathy for her peer, how difficult it was for her to actually feel any kind of connection. And what I did is I actually called her out and I said, you know what? I think the reason that you don't have empathy for that other person is that actually you have even less empathy for yourself. And that caught her by surprise. She took a really long pause and said, I think you're right. This, my friends, is the heart of the matter. If you struggle to have empathy for others, if you struggle to put yourself in someone else's shoes, to walk the mile, as they say, chances are that it's even harder for you to give empathy for yourself. And the truth is that's something that we really need to dig deep and work on. Because empathy isn't something you perform. It's something that you embody. It comes from the inside out. Empathy comes from within. So if you're constantly judging yourself, criticizing every move, telling yourself you're not doing enough, not leading best, not being, successful enough, how can you possibly create a culture on your teams and in your business of belonging and connection for them? Well, you can't. You have got to have empathy first for yourself to then offer it to anyone else. So here's what my client and I talked about in our session, that she needs to pause, breathe, and reflect. And I know that this sounds very simple, but I also know that when you're a really driven, ambitious, high-performing woman, like most of us are, it's actually radical. We are wired to go, to fix, to push. But leadership requires spaciousness. And empathy requires us to pause and breathe and to connect inward, not to push outward. The pause, what it does is it gives us a chance to quiet the saboteur. That's all that head trash, right? That's what our saboteur is. It's just our good old amygdala getting in the way, trying to, propel us forward and keep us safe, but doing it in a way that's totally non-productive. It's all this junk that we repeat to ourselves over and over and over again. And then once we have had a chance to actually pause and breathe, we can actually start to quiet the head trash, the trash talk that we do to ourselves. So once we've had a chance to do that, we need to really ask, why is empathy so hard? Well, usually it's because we care. So when I do it, you can't see me. I put my hand on my heart because this is me speaking to myself. And I pause, I take some deep breaths, and then I ask myself, why is this so difficult? Why am I feeling such big feelings? And 99 times out of 100, it's because I care very deeply. I feel very passionately. I'm very invested and I want to have a big impact. My friends, that's not weakness. That's purpose. When we can actually get out of the saboteur headspace, when we can take a few deep breaths and pause and do the reflection, we actually reconnect to why we are so driven. And there is incredible energy there. That's where the passion lives. So as I said before, this isn't just about doing some, healing work. This is a professional leadership power move. Pause, breathe, reflect, get back to what really matters. Now we can move forward with purpose. Okay, founder friends, you know how we talk on this show about that saboteur voice in your head, the one that tells us we're not good enough or that we have to be in control of everything just to keep it together? Well, the great news is I've got the solution to manage all that head trash. It's my Positive Intelligence Bootcamp, where we dive into how to quiet your saboteurs and strengthen your sage so you can lead your business with more clarity, calm, and confidence. You can find more information about the bootcamp through the link in the show notes or head over to highvoltageleadership.ca/positive intelligence to reserve your spot in the next bootcamp right now. So I want to really reinforce this point. Empathy is not the enemy of performance. It's actually the engine, right? Again, because we've gone back to and connected to our purpose. We've acknowledged and recognized and tried to connect in a very meaningful way in our team and in our relationships. And from there, we can be propelled forward. So here's what's happening when you start to lead with greater empathy. First and foremost, your team trusts you more. They see you working hard to identify with them, and they feel that. That is visceral. People start to feel safe to speak up, to offer ideas, or admit failures. And when we can get to those spaces faster, when we can actually talk about when we screwed it up, we can figure out solutions and get it done and recover faster. When our team feels like they can speak up, they have data to offer us, feedback that's valuable for us as the leader. And of course, they're going to offer new creative ideas that help us innovate. And from that, collaboration gets easier. Feedback becomes a conversation, not a confrontation. Again, because I'm seeking to understand. And from there, I can really connect and collaborate. And of course, our culture becomes one of belonging, not just compliance. They don't just do the thing because you tell them to and you pay them. They do it because they're invested. They believe in your vision and mission. They see how they add value to that. They know that they can trust you and that you are invested with them. You understand them. And that then enhances their performance. And guess what? That leads to better results. That leads to client satisfaction numbers that go up. That leads to greater revenue. It leads to greater engagement and retention of your super valuable team. And ultimately, it generates better business outcomes. But it starts with you, my friend. You have to lead with empathy. Because here's the truth. People who seem like they lack empathy for others, they are always harder on themselves, like 100 times harder. And if that's you, that you are absolutely not alone. I am the same way. And I got to tell you, I work with very driven, very successful female entrepreneurs every single day. And as a rule, this is true. We are hard on ourselves. And it is difficult to give ourselves empathy. And that means that we show up and look like we're harder on everybody around us. So what does practicing self-empathy look like? Let me break the steps down for you and give you some real thought-provoking things that you might want to try. So again, step 1, pause and breathe. You've heard me say this over and over on this podcast. And yes, I'm saying it again. Deep breathing sends your brain the message, you're safe. Because this is what's being activated when we get into this saboteur space, when the head trash is really loud. That's the saboteur actually acting as a survival technique, oddly enough. Sure doesn't feel like it. But when we can breathe, when we can pause, when we can get present, that tells our brain, tells our amygdala we are safe. And that's when we can quiet the saboteur. That's when the head trash comes to a minimum. Okay. Now we can start to engage other parts of our brain. When the saboteur isn't going crazy, I call it the saboteur spiral because it does feels like you're spiraling. Now we can engage all the other places in our brain, like our prefrontal cortex and our empathy circuitry. See how that works? Then step 2, we need to ask ourselves, what's the story? Is this a moment that actually calls for control? Is this a moment that calls for me to avoid and run away? Or do I need to run around pleasing everybody? Or is this just my fear speaking? Is this my saboteur? Is this really true? We can ask ourselves some very profound reflection questions. And then step 3, talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend. If your best friend came to you with the exact same problem, exactly what you're dealing with, what would you say to them? Probably wouldn't be, oh, get over it. Stop being such a baby. Why are you having so much trouble? You just need to be in charge. This is all of that saboteur junk. You would never say that to your best friend. What would you say to them? You would say, hey, this looks like it's really bothering you. What's really going on? And you would give them space to talk about it. And then you would say, well, what feels like the right thing to do here? And you would give them space to come to, and you would work on that with them. That's the way I want you to talk to yourself. Exactly the way you would talk to your bestie. Step number 4 is connecting back to your why. We talked about that a little bit earlier, right? That when we really start to ask ourselves these questions, put our hand in our heart and really think about, why is this so hard for me? Why am I feeling these big feelings? I get all the way back to the impact that I want to make and my purpose, the mission. What am I looking to change in this world? Why is that so important? And we are able to remind ourselves that this pressure that we're feeling, this saboteur response, comes from a place of deep passion and deep meaning. And that is something to be celebrated, not ashamed of. And step number 5, and this one's important, you gotta practice. Like any muscle, it requires repetition. So empathy doesn't come all at once. You're not going to walk through these 4 steps and be perfect at empathy the first time. That doesn't happen. You need practice. It's a leadership skill that you build over time. What you're going to do is you're going to start with yourself. And you're going to go through steps 1 through 4. As soon as you hear that saboteur start to go crazy, as soon as you start to feel the spiral. And then as you get better and better, you're going to be able to extend all of that outward to your team, to your family, to your bestie, to your community, to that organization where you sit on the board, to that hockey parent that you sit beside in the rink. This works everywhere. All right. It is important enough that I'm going to say it probably for the 4th time in this episode. Empathy is not weakness. It's not giving in. It's not rolling over and playing dead. It's not backing off. It's leadership. It's connection. It's culture. And it starts with you. So the next time you feel like you're being too soft, you're getting taken advantage of, I want you to ask yourself, am I actually being soft here? Or am I strong enough to really stay human, to stay connected? Because that's the kind of leadership that builds incredible cultures of belonging, that builds successful, thriving organizations, and ultimately builds legacy. All right, if this resonated with you, I want you to do 2 things with me right now. First of all, I want you to take 3 deep belly breaths. Seriously, do it with me. Pause the show. Breathe all the way to the bottom of your lungs. and then exhale slowly. And then I want you to DM me on Instagram. And my handle is at high volt leadership. That's my handle. Or share this episode in your stories and tag me with your biggest aha. I want to hear about it. I want to hear what empathy means to you. I want to hear that you've tried this and what your experience was. I want you to reach out and connect with me. Send me a DM. Let me know. And as a bonus for you, I've created a free downloadable guide called the Empathy Superpower Starter Kit. It includes all of these steps along with a short reflection to help you do the pause, the breathe, and then build your empathy muscles. Again, starting from the inside out. So we will have a link to the library we've created where we'll put this starter kit along with a number of other free tools for you. We'll put that link in the show notes. And if you're ready to start leading your team with empathy and strategy, what I would encourage you to do, especially if you're struggling with your saboteur, if your head trash is pretty loud, you need to come and be a part of my Positive Intelligence Bootcamp. 7 weeks, 15 minutes a day, and group coaching every week with me. And what we do is we get after that saboteur. I teach you all the tools you need to shut down the saboteur spiral, to let go of the controller, to stop being a pleaser, to knock it off as an avoider, and actually become the calm, confident leader that you really want to be. I know you do. I'm going to teach you in the bootcamp how to shut down all of that head trash. And we'll put a link so that you can claim your spot in the show notes for you. All right. Until next time, I want you to keep breathing, keep leading, and remember, you don't have to trade heart for hustle. We'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Female Founder Unplugged. If today's conversation resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Connect with me on Instagram at High Volt Leadership and send me your questions or let me know your biggest takeaway. Looking for more strategies on scaling your business, building a powerhouse team, or leading with confidence? Head over to highvoltageleadership.ca or follow me on LinkedIn for exclusive content, resources, and special offers just for listeners. Until next time, keep leading, keep learning, and remember, the real magic happens when you're unplugged.